Welcome to Fungos Footnotes, the podcast where baseball meets the deeper side of the game. This show is for players, parents, and coaches who care about more than just box scores. We talk development, recruiting, mindset, leadership, and the lessons baseball teaches us that last long after the final out. Because the game shapes you and the footnotes matter. Let's get into it. Welcome back to this episode of Fungos and Footnotes. Coach T, always a pleasure to hop on a podcast and visit with you.
Yes, sir. I look forward to it.
Absolutely. Hey, listeners, we've got a special treat for you today because today we're going to talk about player etiquette, but I wanted to frame it like this. These are going to be 10 silent tests that every coach is giving you. So, T, let's jump in. Whenever you hear the words player etiquette, break that down. What does that actually mean to you as a coach?
Without getting into our 10 too early, just how does a player carry himself? How do they get to the field? How do they look when they're at the field? When the camera's not on them, what are their actions telling you? Are they a team guy? Are they a me guy? Those kind of things. Those are important, especially if we're trying to make the move from rec or select ball into high school ball or high school ball into college baseball. These are things coaches are going to grade us on as players because they have a lot to do with team chemistry and clubhouse chemistry, and those are vitally important to winning programs. So let's hit up those hidden tests.
Let's hit them up. Coach T, let's start with number one. We've talked about it. Just to remind people, show up early, prepared, and dress like you care. Why is that
Absolutely.
important?
I would like to see the players show up to the field dressed and ready. Now, that doesn't mean they have to have their spikes on necessarily, but they should have their training shoes on and their uniform and dress. They respect the game. They respect their teammates. They're ready to play. Guys that roll in shorts and change in the dugout, look, I get it. We don't have dressing rooms. Most high school games when we're on the road, we don't have dressing rooms in select ball. I understand it's hot in the summertime. I totally get all that. However, the player doesn't have the ability to put the team first, put the appearance of the team first, have respect for the game. They can only operate when everything's just hunky-dory. That's probably not a player that I'm looking for because over the course of a college season, not everything's going to be hunky-dory, right? So I need those guys that they have only one thing on their mind, and that's doing a job, being a professional about it, and getting after it. And when a guy shows up dressed and ready, that guy's going to catch my attention.
What I love about this is whenever you jog on and off the field, it tells a story of you as a player. So, T, whenever you're coaching and players jog nonchalantly on and off the field, compare that player to a player that not a full sprint, right? We're not
Right.
timing the 100-yard dash, but compare that guy to the guy that's getting out to his position and ready to rock and roll to take the ground balls from first base or play catch in the outfield.
The guy that has the excitement about him when he's taking the field or coming off the field, that guy is in my opinion, that guy is a guy that is going to have that contagious energy. That's super important. There's a lot of lulls in a game. Offensively, there can be lulls. Defensively, there can be lulls. Pitchers can struggle with the strike zone time to time, the game, and bring your emotional level down. When I say emotion, I don't mean fiery, we're going to whip these guys. Emotion, we're locked in, we're ready to rock, and our focus is 100%. Those guys that have that extra pep in their step, number one, it's contagious. Number two, it shows me guy enjoys playing the game, right? He doesn't just like hitting, or he doesn't just like playing defense when somebody hits him a ground ball. That guy just eats up the game from the start to the end. That is a player that I'm looking at specifically when I get to the field because that guy is going to go all out in practice. That guy's going to go all out in the games. That guy's going to start with his floor here, but he's going to continue to improve because he's willing to put in that effort. And that is the kind of player I can build a team around. And if I can get 9 of them, it's going to be difficult to compete day in and day out against that group of guys because they're never going to quit. They're never going to roll over. And so I think being that guy that leads by action is super important.
Absolutely. I would just Echo 100% what you said. Whenever you're hustling, your brain is engaged. Whenever you're just going through the motions, that's why as coaches, we talk about take every rep like it matters. Because if you're not taking every rep like it matters, you're going to do that in a game when it matters. And that's not hustle. That's not what we're talking about.
Yeah, I'll give you a great example of that. And when Miggy won the Triple Crown, they interviewed him about 2/3 of the way through the season, and he had a really bad stretch of a couple of games. And I realize that pro baseball is a season, right? With 162 games, it can be a huge grind on those guys. And he had a really tough stretch, and they interviewed him, and he felt bad for himself. He said, I fell into an old habit, and a lot of big league guys go through this from time to time. They take a couple games off because they're tired, they're mentally tired. And he said that. He said, I took a couple games off and it's really hurt me. My goal is to win the Triple Crown. I can't take any more games off. And the guy went on a tear and never let it end.
Absolutely. And this actually goes back to the next point of player etiquette that we would like to highlight today, which is body language matters more than stats. That whenever you have the right body language, that's going to naturally translate into hustling on and off the field.
For me, and most people don't understand this or believe this, but body language greatly affects performance. And I'll just give you a simple everyday an example that everyone can understand, right? When you get up in front of a room with a lot of people, you get embarrassed and your face gets flush. So my emotion, my body language affected me physically. It forced the blood to my face to redden my cheeks and show embarrassment. So absolutely our emotion and our body language can have physical effects on our body. So guys that have poor body language, first thing's going to happen is they lose focus much easier. And so if I make an error and I get some terrible body language and I'm feeling sorry for myself, and the next ball that gets hit to me could be on the very next pitch, certainly my focus is not going to be at 100%. And the opportunity to make another error could present itself. So body language is vitally important. Plus, it shows when you have good positive body language, it shows that, hey, I know I made a mistake. Errors are part of the game. Strikeouts part of the game. Walks are part of the game. I understand that. I'm mature enough to know those things are going to happen, and we're just going to have to overcome it. And so I'm ready for the next play. Let's get it on. I'm going to personally overcome it as a player. So body language, on top of being a physical detriment to your playing ability, certainly can affect your teammates too. So we need to keep a good handle on our outward emotion and our body language at all times. I realize it's an emotional game, especially when it's one-on-one and you're pitching or you're hitting and it's you versus the other guy and the other guy beats you. But we have to understand that's part of the game, right? We're going to get beat some. In fact, we're going to get beat a lot offensively as a hitter, and we're going to get beat in some big moments as a pitcher. And we're likely to screw up defensively in some big moments too. And so we just have to I'm not saying dismiss that in a way that where we don't care, but we have to control that, keep that internalized, and refocus immediately.
Absolutely. I remember whenever I was playing college ball, we had a non-conference game at OSU, and I was slated to be on the mound that day. And I was on the mound, but I was having a bad day. It was not a good day. And this is where a learning curve happened in my head and just the trajectory, because I went into the dugout, I was mad, and head coach, which have high respect for him, he made a comment, not derogatory, just being a coach, right? Y'all
Right.
need good coaches. And my response to him was, it's the umpire's fault. He's squeezing me on every single pitch. I'm painting the corners and he's not giving me the corners. And then coach had made a comment about it, and I turned to him and I was like, coach, it's not my ultimately I said it's not my fault, it's the umpire's fault, because he's squeezing me on every single pitch I'm throwing. And
Yep.
it's so true. Whenever you say it's an emotional game, it's such a mental game. But I look back on that, and then I then translated that later, and I did apologize to the coach after the game. I was like, coach, that wasn't okay.
Yeah.
I it's not the umpire's fault because I'm not doing my job as a pitcher.
I have that discussion with my pitching staff every year at the beginning of the year. But I tell my pitching staff beginning of the year every year, look, if we got 2 outs and a couple runners on and the shortstop boots one and you give up a double on the very next pitch and those runs beat us, you can't come into the clubhouse or the dugout saying or even feeling that, hey, the shortstop, if he makes that play, we win the game. We had 2 outs because the shortstop didn't throw the last pitch that gave up the 2-run double. You did as the pitcher. So you have to be accountable for your actions at all times and do your job at all times. And if you execute a good pitch in that scenario, maybe we don't give up a 2-run double with 2 outs there, allowing the shortstop to take the brunt of that for making the error 2 pitches before. That's not holding yourself accountable. That's giving yourself a way out. And we're not going to have success at a high level as an individual player. And there's a lot of individual aspects in the game of baseball as well as team aspects. But if we don't hold ourselves accountable individually, we're never going to reach our full potential as a player. So being able to manage our emotions and body language and stay focused on doing our job, that is article number 1 if we want to have a long-lasting career and have some success.
Absolutely. And it even goes beyond the game of baseball. We're talking about life lessons here. We're just utilizing
Absolutely.
baseball as a tool to teach people how to do things the right way. Because whenever you have a
Absolutely.
job, you're not going to be able to blame the umpire. You're going to have to blame yourself or hold yourself accountable to what
Right.
happened.
Hey, if I'm an insurance salesman and Jim over there in the cubicle next to me makes a 25 more sales than I make, and the boss calls me and says, "Hey, man, Jim's kicking your tail. What's going on?" There's nothing I can blame that on, right? That's all on me. I have to hold myself accountable. So, yeah, it's super important life lesson that we understand that our actions are totally controlled by ourselves, and we have to keep the emotion out of the way and stay focused on whatever our task is.
Absolutely. Coach T, whenever you were talking, I immediately went to an office analogy, the office analogy of cubicles and all that. But it also comes back. You have to be coachable. And
Absolutely.
I think that if we were to rank these, which we haven't ranked them, we're just talking about a top 10 overview. But whenever you talk about top 10, showing up early, being prepared, and dressing like you care, that's priority number 1 in anything you do. But I would say second to that would be coachable and
Yes.
have a mindset that you might have a way, and we can touch on this in the parent etiquette episode, which is going to happen next week, but framing up the idea of how to be coachable. There's certain things that as coaches we don't mess with. Some people, they love to start with their elbow up high and they get to the right position when they're taking a swing. Other guys, their elbow more closer to the chest. Either way, whenever you start having conversations with the coach about what is comfortable for you might be different from John on the team next to you. But
Right.
T, talk about being coachable.
First thing we have to understand, we touched on this a little bit last week, our team blend, right? So every team is different because we have a different group of individuals and every individual is different. And so our team blend may dictate that offensively we need to be a little more small ball than power ball. So in that scenario, the coach may ask us to do some things different than we're used to doing. But I do believe any successful coach is not going to ask a player to do something that they feel like, as a coach, the player is unable to do. And if the player is coachable, they're willing to make a solid effort at making those adjustments for the betterment of the team. And if the player is not willing to make a run at making some adjustments to better the team, that's going to have a huge effect on whether or not I put their name in the lineup, just because ultimately I'm responsible for the team as the coach and the success of the team as the coach. So I'm going to need guys that can be coachable and follow some directions and hopefully add to the output of the team in its entirety in whatever role they may face. And if they give me a solid effort and they're not able to accomplish what we're asking, but they were super coachable in their effort, then maybe we need to look at a different method, right? But when I get some pushback on just the player themselves being coachable, that's going to move that player down the list, in my opinion, personally, just because, again, team blend, maybe just the matchup for the day, right? Maybe you got a bunch of right hand hitters in your lineup, and the team you're facing's got a big old righty with a nasty slider, and you know it's going to be a long day offensively, and we're going to have to take a lot of pitches, and you got a couple of super aggressive hitters in the lineup, and you're asking those guys, hey man, we got to tone it down a little bit today and work the pitch count, see if we can get that big righty with that nasty slider out of there and get in the bullpen. The willingness and coachability of a player to do what you ask is going to have a direct outcome on your success that day. So coachability is a huge factor for players, high school level, college level, and quite frankly, it should be at the select level too. And I would say on the elite select teams, it is. But there's so many select teams. Players can meander through the select world up to high school really and have zero coachability. So
is whenever a coach is talking to you, eye contact is the most important thing that you can do. And also, two things that we did. One, we always took off our sunglasses and we always took off our hats when the coach was talking to us in a huddle. And
I
it
love it.
just it instilled the respect, because if you have sunglasses on, you could be looking anywhere but the coach that is talking to you. And if you
I
take your
love it.
hat off, obviously whenever we typically society has changed overall, but
But that's just a sign of respect.
yeah, it's a sign of respect. So when the coach is talking, we did two things. We knelt, we actually did three. We took a knee, we took our sunglasses off, and we took our hat off. And the fourth thing, now I'm just adding to it, but with the sunglasses off, our eyes were on the coach. And that
Absolutely.
shows exactly what we're talking about: respecting the game, body language, and being coachable. It's the little things that you don't necessarily think about that add up over time. And that separates good players from great players. And that's where talent separates the people that actually invest not only in the talent, but themselves as a person, and that naturally
Yep.
translate as a player.
No doubt. I have a lot of respect for the Dixon brothers. Denny Dixon, I played for Denny, and best coach I ever played for by a long margin. And he's no good and all that. That immediately lowers the focus of all of your teammates. That's a terrible thing to do. And that's exactly what happens when you get a what you feel like is a lesser opponent, or the team you're playing is not very good. You don't have the level of respect that you need to have for that person or that team, and you don't perform at your top. Then neither do your teammates, and
Yeah.
you end up getting beat personally or as a team. Oh man, that guy's really good. Oh my gosh, that guy's really good. This guy's got 7 no hitters or something like that. That also has an effect on your teammates, right? So you got to have a certain level of respect for your opponents and your teammates. And one way we show respect to our teammates is we don't excessively celebrate, and we don't talk bad or excessively good about our opponent. Our opponent shouldn't matter, quite frankly. When we get in the batter's box, we have a job to do. When we toe the rubber, we have a job to do. The opponent is irrelevant if we take care of our job. And so when we bring our teammates down that path of looking at and talking about the other team or the other player, we're pulling their attention away from their job. And so that's one of the reasons why it's super important to maintain your focus on your job and not overly celebrate, not show your opponents up, and just respect the game in general. And when I see players like that, that's an immediate no for me. Sometimes you don't get to see on doing their job, pitch to pitch.
Absolutely. I just want to double down on one thing you said, T, which is to maintain your focus on your job and not to overly celebrate and to not show your opponents up. I think that it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, whenever we were talking about whenever things go wrong. Because it's easy to bat flip and do these home run trots and
Yeah.
the cool things, right? And for those that are just listening, I put that into quotations because it's not the
Yes.
cool things, right? Because how, from a player perspective, if I mess up, if I strike out, whatever, and I go to the dugout and I throw my helmet, and then the next at bat, I hit a home run and I'd slow trot, Those are complete opposite ends of the spectrum as a
Right.
player. And the most important thing to remember whenever we're talking about baseball, we're talking about long seasons. That
Yep.
is, in and of itself, a roller coaster of emotions. So, whenever you're thinking about ways of player etiquette, be even keel, have emotion, but handle success and failure the right way, because that's going to translate the entire culture of the team.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. So you get overly emotional. There's a lot of highs and lows in a game that wears you down, and it does affect your focus. And that's why there's lulls in the game. I always talk about the first couple innings, everybody's excited, right? And then you get in that third and fourth and fifth inning, there's unless you're having a great day team wise, everybody's up there hitting, your guy on the mound is just out there dominating, throwing a one hit shutout or something. There's a lull in the game. And that's when things get sloppy. Guys lose their focus and critical mistakes are made, or critical outs are made, or we give at bats away that we don't need to give away. And those come back and haunt us later because everybody gets excited in that sixth and seventh inning because the end of the game is coming. And so we've got to turn it on. And so it's really difficult to start really high, hit that low, and then grab it back again. So we need to have a even keel, like you said, of focusing on just doing our job, whatever our job is that day, whether it's picking our teammates up from the dugout or putting together 4 high quality at bats every time we get the opportunity. We got to focus on doing our job. If we stay focused on that, we're locked in and we can avoid those lulls. And so we don't give those at bats away. We don't make those critical mistakes on the mound and give up those hits when we don't need to and turn that lineup over again, right? We are able to maintain control of the game from the beginning to the end. And more often than not, that's going to pay off in terms of a win. That's vital, right? To have that even keel and avoid that roller coaster.
Absolutely.
You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure that out. If you think about it, if your team is that team and you're playing a 7 inning ball game, you gave the other team 21 outs for an opportunity to push across runs, and you're only giving yourself 15 outs. So, well, that's not hardly fair, and that's going to be exceptionally difficult to win when you're giving that many at bats away. So, yeah, that's going to be a great episode right there.
Absolutely. And that brings us to our next point, which is we've talked about celebration. Obviously, if you hit a triple in the gap, we've got teams that are doing the special hook arms and all that stuff. But let's talk about team camaraderie for a minute as player etiquette of celebrating teammates and not yourself. Now, obviously, there's a balance. You want to make sure that if you're having a great day, of course, celebrate. But let's talk about the importance of a team being on a team and winning together rather than just thinking, hey, I'm out here for myself trying to win.
Oh, I guarantee you, if you maintain a lot of relationships with a lot of former players, but if you're going to be Captain Bitter in the dugout, I'm just going to either run you off or make it so difficult for you to stay because that's gonna be a terrible cancer in the clubhouse or the dugout. And so we got to celebrate teammate success. Not to mention teammate success leads to team success. And so we've got to be a great team player. And I promise all college coaches are building their team on team success and teammates and good teammates and just the culture. You watch any game at the College World Series or any game in the playoffs, buddy, it's all about team. Every pitch matters. Whether the guy's the freaking bottom of the barrel guy, the freshman that hadn't played a single inning, or the superstar of the team that's going to be first round draft pick.
Yeah.
They celebrate team success and teammate success.
Absolutely. Hey, if we're going to have that analogy, one thing that I want to point out, the elephant in the room, two things. I want to touch on culture, and then I want to touch on one thing you just said, which mindset is everything, because there are so many success stories of guys that are down in the wire on a game. They've been sitting on the bench the entire game, and coach decides to sub in and put in a new hitter because the veteran on the team has an injury or needs to just come out of the game for whatever reason. Maybe they just want to spice things up. It's a matchup and they want to go righty left. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
The point is, you see so many of those success stories, especially at the college level, in the World Series championships, playoff rounds. All the ante is on the line. And those guys that come through clutch, it's not a matter of talent in that position, it's a matter of mindset and
They were in the
handling the
game and ready to
opportunities.
roll. When
They
their
were.
number got called, they were ready to roll. I want to give you a great example of that. I don't remember what year it was. It was probably early 90s. I know it was the Indians and the Braves in the World Series. And the game was in Cleveland. So October in Cleveland, really cold, miserable, can be. And the Braves had the lead and they brought Mark Wohlers in. Wohlers was a great closer for great 90s Braves teams. And they got through 100 miles an hour and just was dominant. And they brought Wohlers in. And Mike Pagliarulo, a longtime journeyman veteran left-hand hitter, got a pinch hit in the ninth inning and walked up there and hit the first or second pitch he saw, straightaway center, home run, win the game for the Indians. And they had asked him about it on a podcast. I don't know, it was a few years after the game, Baseball Tonight, something. I guess it wasn't a podcast because they didn't have those back then. I've seen Mike Pagliarulo talking about that, and he said that the manager, which I believe the manager was Mike Hargrove at the time, had come down and told him, hey, if we get somebody on in the ninth, you're going to hit. He'd been sitting in the corner of the dugout the whole game with his jacket on, trying to stay warm. As soon as Hargrove told him, hey, if we get somebody on, you're going to hit, he got up and started moving around and got his body ready, got his mind ready, and took his on deck work, right? We have jobs to do when we're on deck. Did all of his on deck work in the dugout while he was waiting for somebody to get on. And sure enough, somebody got on. He didn't get any on deck time, but he'd already prepared. He'd already taken care of it. He was in the game. He was ready to rock. And he walked up there on a frigid October night against a guy throwing 100 and smoked a game winner because he might have been sitting in the corner of the dugout with his jacket on, but the guy was in the game.
Yeah.
Mentally. He was
Absolutely.
ready for his number to get called.
Absolutely.
And we're talking about a journeyman who was a part-time player at that time in his career, for sure, and got one. Celebrating teammate success, you're usually in the game, you're usually ready, you're usually locked in. And so that's keeps us on task.
Absolutely. And that brings us, which is a great segue to our final point today, which is talent opens doors, but etiquette keeps them open.
Yeah, without doubt. So all talented players are going to get opportunities because they have skill sets and tools, right? But when they lack in some of the criteria areas that we've talked about with their etiquette, them on the talent side, right? Always happens, right? People get caught on the talent side. And now I'm going to be balancing from the coaching standpoint. Skills levels are about the same. This guy's a detriment to my team. Attitude, he's a problem. This guy's not. Easy selection. And if we have all of the intangibles and all of the etiquette and the work ethic, then we're going to go as far as even a guy that might be slightly more. It's good to have it in the workplace.
Yeah.
If you have those, like we talked about, those life lessons, understand that, and you're a coachable person in the workplace and you're a versatile person in the workplace and you're always ready for the task at hand, guess what? You might not be the smartest guy or the best salesman or whatever your job may entail, but you're going to have success and you're going to get your number called. And so having that ability and learning that ability as a player coming up, it's going to be a lifelong attribute for you that works out in the positive every time.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, we're talking about baseball, but it brings together so many things. There is life beyond the game, and that's why we bring all of the facets of the game of baseball, both in and off the field, of baseball etiquette and player etiquette. So, T, thanks so much for having this conversation. I 100% agree. And that's what I hope that our listeners are taking from this. Yes, we're baseball guys, but most importantly, we want to help cut through the chaos with clarity for you as a player and as a parent. And if you're a coach listening, let's be encouraged. Let's come on and continue talking about the importance of culture and the importance of life beyond the game of baseball so that we can have successful athletes, but also, as you said, T, they're going to be in the marketplace one day. So let's prepare them in the right way. I'm excited for next week. This week, we talked about 10 silent things that coaches are looking for and what coaches actually notice. So, as you were encouraged by this podcast, share it with a friend. If you're a parent, share it with another parent. And if you're a player, I hope that you, at the end of the day, show up on time, show up early. We've talked about that. Celebrate not just yourself, but celebrate your teammates. And last but not least, talent opens doors, but when we talk about etiquette, it keeps them open. So keep doing things the right way, and we'll see you on next week podcast. Thanks for listening, and thanks, T.
Appreciate you guys.
Thanks for listening to Fungos and Footnotes. This episode helps you see the game or your role in it a little more clearly. Share it with someone who loves baseball too. Subscribe, follow along, and stay connected, because the game doesn't just reveal talent, it reveals character, and the footnotes matter.